Good evening, council members. I'm about to call the December meeting of the Cranston City Council to order. I'll give you guys a couple minutes to get settled because it was a little bit of traffic infested out there. Councilman Marquetto is joining us, and we'll give him a minute. Get everybody settled. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Lee?
Present.
Councilman Hopkins?
Present.
Councilman Stichels? Here. Councilman Foley?
Here.
Councilman Carroll? Present. Councilman Poultry?
Present.
Councilman Paplosky?
Present.
Councilman Vecchio?
Present. Present. If everyone will please rise and join in saluting the flag and pledging allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Under public acknowledgements and commendations, we don't have any this evening. Under public hearings, this is open to the public for any discussion on docketed matters. Anyone would like to speak at this time on docketed matters? There being none, I'm going to close that section of the meeting. Resolutions, there are no resolutions before us this evening. We'll go on to report of committees. Vice President Vecchio, okay. Finance Committee.
Thank you, Council President. Did we skip the public hearings, or are we going right to committee?
I made an announcement. Nobody from the public wanted to get up and speak, so we're good. But thank you.
Okay. Yeah, no, there were two things listed under there, that's why. Okay, the Finance Committee, we had the resolution authorizing real estate tax abatements. That was passed unanimously. I recommend passage here.
I want to say a motion to approve. I have a motion to approve. Second. And a second. Under discussion. Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Lee?
Yes.
Councilman Hopkins? Yes. Councilman Stichels? Yes. Councilman Foley?
Yes.
Councilman Carroll? Councilman Poultry?
Yes.
Councilman Paplosky?
Yes.
Councilman Vecchio?
Yes.
Councilman
Yes.
And we had the resolution authorizing motor vehicle tax abatements. That also was passed unanimously.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Under discussion. Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Lee?
Yes.
Councilman Hopkins? Yes. Councilman Stichels? Yes. Councilman Foley?
Yes.
Councilman Carroll? Yes. Councilman Poultry?
Yes.
Councilman Paplosky?
Yes.
Councilman Vecchio?
Yes.
Yes.
And then we have the tax interest waiver approvals. That also passed unanimously.
I have a motion to approve. I have a second. Under discussion. Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Lee?
Yes.
Councilman Hopkins? Yes. Councilman Stichels? Yes. Councilman Foley?
Yes.
Councilman Carroll? Yes. Councilman Poultry?
Yes.
Councilman Paplosky?
Yes.
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 Now, in which order are we going to take the report from the committee with regard to the audit?
We should probably stick to the docket so we don't have to suspend the rules to move it up one.
Okay.
So I have a motion. You're still up, Council Vice President. I have a motion for...
Oh, okay, there it is, the ordinance. No, that's not it.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we take the audit out of order and hear the outside city auditor's report at this point in time.
I have a motion to hear the audit out of order. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. Under discussion. Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Lee?
Yes.
Councilman Hopkins?
Yes.
Councilman Stichels?
Yes.
Councilman Foley?
Yes.
Councilman Carroll? Councilman Poultry?
Yes.
Councilman Paplosky?
Yes.
Councilman Vecchio?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. We have Markham, our representatives from Markham here, who will make a presentation first with the council's approval, and then they'll take questions.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Erica Lilbury. Can everyone hear me?
Is the button on? The green light on?
Hello?
Yes, there you go.
I'm Erica Lilbury from Markham. I'm a director in the audit department. This is Jim Prescott. He is a partner on the city. So everybody got a PowerPoint presentation. I know you guys got the lovely 160-page document PDF to you, and hopefully you're able to breeze through that. This is kind of the Cliff Note version, kind of highlighting the important points, things you should really focus on when you're reading through it. So basically the status of the audit is, we're done with everything. We're out of the field. We're actually in the process of doing final reviews. So we have our internal review taking place, partners in process now, quality control department, and then our proofreading will take place before we finalize this for the 29th, we issue to Auditor General. So as we go through this process, this PowerPoint, feel free to ask questions. So on page 3 of the PowerPoint slide, pages 10 and 12 of your report that you have a copy of is basically our auditor's opinion. So basically this is 3 pages in your actual large capital report. That's what we do our testing on, and then we give you the results of the testing. Basically it's a clean opinion, it's an unmodified opinion. So also in the report, you'll also notice in the last paragraph it'll refer to a government auditing standards report. So basically that's a separate financial reporting package that you get on compliance, and that's due March 31st. So that compliance testing will be taking place in January, and then that report will be issued afterwards. Page 4 of this is basically a synopsis of the city's performance in 2017. So basically in the governmental funds, so that document you have is page 32. The city, the final fund balance is about $20.8 million, and it falls into all different categories. It could be non-spendable, restricted, committed, or unassigned. The total unassigned for the city general fund is about $20.1 million. The school department, the final fund balance is about $5.8 million. And then your other governmental funds, which is made up of capital project funds, your CDBG, the education funds that are out there, is about $6 million. So if you flip to page 5 of the presentation, so basically this is how you performed in the current year, kind of like a profit and loss statement. So your statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. So on the city side, we had a increase in fund balance of $123,000. So you'll notice some differences. Now this is on the GAAP reporting basis, and then I'll also go over your budgetary basis because everybody's familiar with the budget, and that's a different supplementary information that we'll go over after. The school department showed a decrease in fund balance of $223,000. And then your other governmental funds, which includes a lot of capital projects, that was a decrease of $5.9 million, which is largely a result of you probably got funding in the past and you just spent it down for projects this year. Page 6, any questions so far? I don't want to go too fast. So basically this is what everyone's probably very familiar with. It's the governmental funds budget to actual. This is budgetary basis, so this is what you're looking at probably very often. City change in fund balance is about a $72,000 decrease. And the school department is about a $201,000 increase. So net, it's about $130,000 in the positive for the city as a whole. So those are the general funds of the city and the other governmental funds. So in your financial statements, there's a number of other funds that you have also. Page 7 of the PowerPoint refers to pages 37 to 39 of the larger report. So in those pages, you'll have your sewer fund, your charter school, school lunch, public facilities. Note that public facilities was set up for a certain purpose and it was dissolved in 2017. And then you also have your internal service funds, which there is one for the city and one for the school. And on page 8, it just kind of highlights the different items on these different funds. So sewer had an overall net position of $59.5 million. It had an overall increase in net position of $4.5 million for the fiscal year 17. School lunch has an overall net position of $900,000, and overall change was about an increase of $385,000 for fiscal year 17. information on the next slide. Your charter school is overall, as of a snapshot in time, 6/30/17, it has a deficit of $512,000. And then it also has a decrease of $110,000 in that position for the current year. And then public facilities is just a small, obviously the balance sheet zeroed out this year because it dissolved, and the last remaining expense was depreciation of 16. Page 10 is relating to your internal service funds. So now your city has the internal service fund for claims and other items. There was a large claim settlement that was paid out this year, so there was a decrease of net position of $207,000. Overall net deficit is $412 as of 6/30. The school, it's ultimately used for health insurance claims, so the overall deficit is $975,000 at this time, and there was a decrease this year of $272,000. Page 11. So these are the big things that are out there, and just to highlight what liabilities are out there for the city and the school. These are the pension plans that are out there. So pages 134 to 147 of your report has a lot of information in it. This just highlights the ending liabilities as of 6/30/17. So the city police and fire plan, $247 million. The mayor's police plan is about a $5.9 million liability. The mayor's fire plan is an asset, which is a good position to be in, is about $840,000. The city plan for mayors, which covers school and city personnel, $14.4 million. The ERS plan, the school's portion is $138 million. And then the teacher survivor benefit plan is a pension asset of $16.2. So again, these liabilities are built on actuarial evaluations, and they're reassessed every year. Page 12 is related to your OPEB liability. So the city has a plan, and it's showing a $43.9 million liability, and the school department is about $9.1 million. And the information and the details on 134 to 147. Any questions on the financial information?
Councilman Cofield.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Just real quick, on the OPEB, the city's $43.9 million and the school department's $9.1. The 9.1 is in addition to the 43.9, correct?
Yes, they have separate plans.
Yep, all right, thank you.
Councilman Arquette, then Councilman Stichels.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I go back to page 4? I have a question, page 4. This is city, final fund balance, $20.8 million. Is that referring to the rainy day fund?
That's not an accounting term, but I think that's what the city has called it before. It's the unassigned piece, so it's everything that falls to the bottom after you do the restricted and the non-spendable portions.
So I defer that question to Mr. Strom. Is that the one? Yes. It is, okay. All right, so this is my 9th year on the council, and it seems like the rainy day fund's been hovering around that amount, and in the last, I would say, 6 to 8 months, with the stock market escalating, I can't see why that number isn't increasing. So now I think the question is directed to Mr. Strom. Mr. Strom, with the market increasing and that money being invested, shouldn't that figure be going up?
Councilman, that money is not invested in the stock market. That money is invested...
It's got to be invested somewhere.
It's invested in short-term borrowings because that number, our cash fluctuates during the course of a year. That's what the value is at the end of the year, but sometimes that $20.1 million can go down to $5 or $6 million in certain times of the year, and then by the end of the year, it creeps up again to the final $20 million.
So you see it fluctuates.
Yes, so we do invest, but we certainly don't invest in a bond market that could be volatile.
It just seems like that it's been hovering around that number for about a good 3 years now, is that correct?
That's correct. We've been basically having a balanced budget for the last few years.
So therefore, it tells me with the economy increasing and that is hovering on the same number, has the administration dipped into that money at all in the last 2 years?
No, not at all. We never touched that money.
If I could, Chair, just follow up, I think one of the things to keep in mind, and I defer to the auditors on some of this certainly, but there's sort of a sweet spot of a number that a municipality should keep for bond ratings, and we're always cognizant from the bond ratings is why it's important that at the end of the year we have this number and this percentage of our budget, approximately just under 10% of our budget or whatever that number is considered something acceptable to the bond rating agencies. So it's not a case of let's just put it super high or super low or whatever. There's actually a balanced spot that's really appropriate for us.
And it's a strong number, so we have good bond rating.
We're at a great spot.
My question is that with a strong economy and the stock market the way it is, that number should increase. It should increase.
But again, it's a floating number. It's sort of deceptive because it's not like a bank account that you have all that money sitting in. It grows because sometimes collections are due and money comes in, but in the end, it's reconciled, and the auditors look at it as a reconciled number.
Thank you.
Can I just follow up also? We've never would invest in the stock market because of the volatility.
The stock market is exempt. We're not investing in the stock market, but with the stock market increasing, that means all investments are strong. Even if you own in U.S. Treasury bonds or whatever you're going to put in, you're going to get a good return because the market's so strong. That's my point.
Right. And we have invested into short-term borrowing, but not in the market or bonds.
Mr. Hampton actually kicks down on that.
Yeah, can I just make a comment? The $20 million is not really any kind of fund. It's the difference between your assets and your liabilities, and therefore it's kind of a working capital amount. And as it was mentioned, the bond rating agencies like to see that, and it's 7 to 10% of your overall budget. That gives you good bond ratings. Most of the communities that we're involved with, and we don't do Providence anymore, but thank God, they don't have positive fund balances. But it's not a tangible, it's not as though somebody's got this money in the bank. It's a kind of a working capital. Like if you think of it as a general fund amount are cash or things that are going to turn to cash or things you have to use cash for in a year. And that's what the general fund tracks. So it's not a long-term investment. It's not anything that's going to grow. You want it to be a healthy amount so you can pay your bills. And you have enough cash to pay your bills.
All right, thank you. Councilor Stichels, you're up next.
Thank you. I just wondered if Mr. Strom could tell us what were the factors, the major factors leading to a change in 72, I'm on page 6, on a $72,000 decrease in the fund balance, and then the deficit in the charter school. That's on page 9.
I think the charter school, we did cover that in the audit committee. So if you compare it to other charter schools that are out there, not-for-profits, they operate on FASB. We do a lot of the charter schools that operate on FASB. So the difference would be they don't record the pension liabilities or the OPEB obligation, whereas you guys operate under GASB. So that's a large difference. So if you look in the balance sheet for the charter school, there's about a $2 million liability booked. So that would bring you into your deficit position. And then you're more comparable to the other ones that are in a FASB position. And I think they're working with the Auditor General to see if they can change that. Maybe Cranston report on a FASB. So I think they are trying to work on that. Okay. So it's comparable.
And what does it mean, overall change in net position versus overall net position?
So the overall change in that position is kind of, easy example is if you have a small business, it's just your revenue minus your expenses. And then the net position is basically your year-end snapshot of what your assets minus the liabilities are.
So the 110 would mean that the decrease of 110 means that it is $110,000 worse than it was last year.
Correct.
Okay. All right, and the major factors in the small deficit on the city side?
Did you want to?
Yeah,
I can pull up the budget.
I can address some of them. On the revenue side, excuse me, we had housing aid and pilot money that we got less than what we budgeted for. Based on what we were told we were going to get and what we actually received, there was a decrease on both of those state revenue line items. There was also less than what we anticipated on grants on the revenue side, but that's also dollar for dollar on the expense side, okay? Some of the expenses, snow removal was a little over. The police and fire, they were over mostly due to overtime, $250K. OPEB, the hospitalization stabilization account where we used to be able to draw from was consumed because of increased claims, so we had to backfill that with the from the general fund, and that was $500,000. Keep in mind, though, that where we had shortfalls, we also had in other areas gains, and it netted out to that, small amount of $70,000.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the financial sections of the audit?
Just have one comment.
Councilman Laney and then Council Vice President Vecchio.
I just want to make a point. Mr. Prescott said that to have a good recommendation from the various agencies concerning our bond rating, you need 7 to 10% of your total assets in reserve, which we do. Ours is approximately 9%. And that's the reason today why we have such a high bond rating. If we had dropped below that, the bond rating would have went down, and conversely, if we went above it, the bond rating would up even higher. So right now, we're in a very good position. And the only other thing I had to say, which I put my glasses on because I take notes. So our bond rating, what I meant to say is our bond rating is better than average. So I think the mayor, this council, and the previous council did an excellent job as far as keeping the city in a very safe position as far as the bond ratings and handling the taxes of the city. That's it.
Thank you, Councilman Laney. Council Vice President Vecchio.
Thank you, Council President. Erica, either for you or for Mr. Strong, but the short-term securities issue that Councilman Arquette brought up, they don't see the gains and the volatility that stocks or even some bond funds do they?
No.
And so,
They're very conservative.
they're so conservative that there's really no way to have an increase that would mirror what happens in the stock market.
Correct.
So I just want to say, I think this slight $72,000 differential, I mean, it's small by comparison, and we did lose some gains with not grants, but some of the pilot money and things like that. So overall, it was good, and thanks to Markham for the job that they did. They did do a very good job. And don't we have a deadline also coming up?
Yep, so it will be issued by 12/29 so that they can meet the GFOA requirements to get that in. And then the other general was nice enough to give you to 1/2, so you'll be ahead of schedule.
Thank you.
Just quickly, I just want to let you know the last few slides are really just about the general communications that we need to have with you guys, those charged with governance. Just be aware there are new GASBs implemented this year, and there's some coming down the pike. There's a schedule on the back, so you can briefly go through that. Any adjustments we brought to management's attention were booked and recorded in the financial statements. There are no past adjustments as of 6/30/17. Basically, management estimates, so just be aware in your financial statements, there's a lot of estimates built into numbers. Claims and judgments is a big estimate, so anything the city has attorneys out there for, that's an estimate that attorneys make. Allowance for doubtful accounts, that's taken into account. Again, your net pension liability, your net pension obligation, we went over those. The useful life of fixed assets is another big management estimate. When you're scanning through the financial statements, some big disclosures, they take up pages and pages, is obviously the retirement plan disclosures, and the OPEB disclosures, there's a lot of information in there. We did not have any difficulties in the audit. We talked about the past adjustments. We will, at the finalization of this audit next week, we'll get a representation letter from management to finalize that. To our knowledge, there is no consultation with any other auditors. And as for the other matters, required supplementary information, again, all this is in your audit report. There's really no opinion from us on your RSI, but we do a lot of work on the supplementary information in the back. So that's also in there. And that's basically it. If you have any questions.
Councilman Lanning, you have another question?
Yeah, the management letter you just referred to, we're getting it next week, is that what you said?
So the management letter, I have the comments, so basically there's not any new comments added. There's one being taken off about the grant reporting that we talked about last year. So that's being removed, they've resolved that. The schedule of federal awards, they're still working on. They don't have a designated city person, so they're still working on that one. The other one that you guys have had for a while is the full accrual accounting one, the one that you book the government-wide entries. I know we don't look at the government-wide as much as we do the budgetary, but again, that's just one of the comments that are still in there. And then just a few IT recommendations that you guys have had in the past.
And I believe the last audit, we had a problem with the auditors, like the charter school had a different audit, I believe, and you had to reconcile it.
All the time, and it's,
Has that been all straightened out this time around?
it was perfect.
Oh, great.
Councilman McCauley.
Thank you, Council President. If I may, through the chair to Director Strong. Director, just so I'm clear on this, if we go to page 6, and I ask her if she can clear it up. The bottom line, sir, is that we're $130,000 to the good. Is that between the city and the school department? We should show a profit of $130 on net.
Well, basically, budget to actual, we were 72,000 short, the school was 201 over surplus. So yes, if you want to net it out, you could say that.
So is that something that would go into the general fund, or is that earmarked specifically?
That will go down into the fund balance, yes.
Okay, all right.
The other thing is, while I'm thinking about it, I know Councilman Arquette, you mentioned about investing. I do want the council to know that in our OPEB and pension funds, we do invest in the market. And the good news I can report to you is that when we started back in 2009, we had about a $42 million balance for the pension fund. That is, with all the payments that we've made and the pension reform, that is now up to $70 million. So we still have a large liability, but we're in the right direction. Okay, now, and we're one of the few people that have an OPEB trust fund that we invest to that's doing well as well. Okay? One of the few communities that have that.
Any additional questions? Before we vote to accept the order, I'd like to thank Markham for all the work that they've done.
Thank you.
I've been on the council the last 5 years. Before that, I was in the audit committee, so I've been through a bunch of these. I like when they're smooth and everything seems to work out. It just shows the city and the mayor are doing a really strong job in ensuring the finances of the city of Cranston are managed well and effectively. With that, I'll take a motion to accept the audit.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to accept the audit, and I have a second. Under discussion, Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Lee?
Yes.
Councilman Hopkins?
Yes.
Councilman Stieglus?
Yes.
Councilman Paul?
Yes.
Councilman Hill? Yes. Councilman Vogel?
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas?
Yes.
Councilman Baker?
Yes. Yes. You have one more piece of work on the finance docket, Council Vice President?
Do I have one?
Yes, you have the ordinance authorizing the city to utilize Eastern recreational impact fees for a dog park at Beachmont Avenue.
Yes.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.
This was heard, and I believe we amended it in committee, and it was passed. It was passed to the full council. I think is the amendment in the docketed item here?
It is. It has been amended.
Yeah.
Motion approved.
Motion approved. Is there a second? Motion and a second. Under discussion, Councilman Hopkins, then Councilman Stichels.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to be sure that as we approve this tonight, that we're talking about the entire facility of courts. I know there was some concern about the size of the facilities, making big dog parks, small dog parks, etc., and I'm under the understanding that we're going to use the entire 2 courts for the dog park.
I'm assuming you're asking through the chair to the administration?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that, but I do know that when I talked to Mr. Story, he was confident that we could make everything fit the way it needed to. So I don't know specifically what the breakdown on that, I don't have an engineering breakdown what that was. But there was going to keep courts and have dog parks, and there was plenty of them. Now,
My recollection.
as far as I know, that I have not seen a design of that. Remember, much of this is coming from private funding, this project. So I think we need to be able to move forward. We were moving forward on this with private funding, but I have not seen the drawing engineers to scale.
Okay, thank you.
I'll defer it.
If we do dog parks, we're going to ensure that they are safely done for large and small. And if we can't fit both large and small in one park, we certainly would ensure that citywide we would have appropriate people.
Okay. Councilman Stichels, sure. And then Council Vice President.
Yeah, well, first I'd like to urge everybody to vote for this. I think it has strong neighborhood support, which is very important, and next to no neighborhood opposition. I do agree with Councilman Hopkins that it needs to be both tennis courts, and so I would propose to add the word both on line, as an amendment, on line 24, after the word at and before the word the abandoned tennis courts.
I'll second that.
On the amendment, any discussion?
Yeah, if I could just...
Mr. Chair, could you just repeat that?
Yeah, on line 24, between the word at and the, add the word both. So it would be construct a dog park at both the abandoned tennis courts at Beachmont Field.
And Council Vice President Vecchio on the amendment.
Okay, thank you, Council President. Yeah, my recollection when we discussed this was that there were 2 things. One, that it was not going to come out of the impact fees because we didn't need it. We had sufficient monies in the budget to do it. The other was I thought it was just going to be for small, under 30-pound dogs, this first park. And I'm not sure if he was, whether Mr. Liberatore was going to use both of those tennis courts for that, or one. I'm trying to remember. Through the chair to Councilman Stichels, I don't know if you remember.
Well, I don't think it was crystal clear, but he did mention adding a basketball court or adding 2 half-court basketball courts. And that was the plan in the dog park. And that area is it's the size of 2 tennis courts. It's 100 feet by 120 feet. If you divide that in half, you get, obviously, 1 tennis court, which is about 50 feet by 100 feet. And it's just too small. I mean, if you're going to do a dog park, it ought to have some size to it. And 1 tennis court is really small. The other thing is that over the last, 3 or 4 years, I've had 3 public meetings on that space and what to do with that space. At none of those meetings has anyone said, we need more basketball courts. I've never gotten a phone call. No one has ever approached me and said we need more basketball courts. As a matter of fact, people have said that they don't like the current basketball court for the same reason that people usually object to basketball courts, that the people who are using them are loud and they swear and they, ones that can jump that high, break the rims, dunking, and those kinds of things. So I think it's great to have 1 basketball court there, which is the one that the Dream Center already fixed up. But I'm not real strong on any more basketball courts just because you're multiplying the number of people who are there and the noise. That's one reason. And then the other reason is, if we're going to do a dog park, it ought to have a certain size to it, and 2 tennis courts is a minimal size.
May I respond? Just respond.
You may, Council Vice President.
My only concern is authorizing him to use as much space as he needs, I think is okay. I'm just not sure. I try to remember exactly whether he had an exact plan already in place, because I know he was talking about just the one for small dogs and not both in that location. I thought he felt that we couldn't fit them there. I don't know if you remember that, but...
Yeah.
Councilman Stichels, same thing or new thing?
Same thing. Respond.
Okay, respond.
Well, I think what he said was that he wanted a small dog park there, and then he was saying we're going to have a big dog park over on the old Ciba-Geigy property.
Right.
And that, I think, is in the short run, like the next 5 years, that's completely unrealistic. There's not going to be any quick action on that site. I've been in regular contact with the environmental guy from, actually the company now is BASF. They bought Ciba-Geigy. And the site that he's talking about, which I've talked to him about a dog park there, the guy from BASF, and he is open to the idea. The last time I talked to him, what he said was, I have to talk to the legal department about, they want it to be open space. But the question is that he was struggling with was, or that the company was struggling with, was whether there was liability of allowing people onto that space, or whether it was just going to be trees and fences. So that hasn't been resolved, and even if it was resolved on the company level, it then has to go to the Environmental Protection Agency as a here's what we want to do, a proposed final site remediation plan. Then the Environmental Protection Agency has a public comment period. They react to the public comments that people send in. They have a meeting in the neighborhood, and then they adjust the plan, and then the company implements the plan, which I think is going to involve removing 2 feet of soil from the entire site and then putting in new soil or capping it with asphalt so that's not going to happen anytime soon. So that's, I think, that's why we need a dog park that could accommodate large dogs and small dogs at that site.
Councilman Paplowski, you're up next, then Councilman Hopkins.
Thank
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I'm trying to recall what we talked about in committee as well, and I think some of the funding for both the dog park and the basketball courts were coming from the Dream Center, so I guess, no? Yeah.
In fact, almost all of it is. That's why we really aren't in a position, we'll work in conjunction with them and do what's in the best interest of the city, but it's really their funding we're accepting, and we're going to work as partners with them, and, Mr. Vittori is going to do everything we do to ensure that we have the best facility that we can possibly have. But at this point, I can't guarantee for sure that there's going to be enough to play in the large and small, but I can tell you that we're continuing to work on other sites for both. This just happens to be one area where we have some private funding to totally redo a decrepit area. And frankly, I'm happy to get what we can get a big piece of it, given that there's very little impact in the city except for some kind work and some potential room and surface material.
Right, so I guess my point is, I'm afraid to vote for the amendment only because I feel like we might be cutting out the funding and the participation from the Dream Center, and I think Tony Liberatore did say that there are a lot of people that use the basketball courts over there, especially with the new court being redone. So that's my only concern. I just don't want to undercut the Dream Center who wants to help the city out and provide the funding.
And I believe the Dream Center, part of what they really want is the basketball court.
Right.
And I'm not a fan of turning away money for something positive to the city. One person may or may not like basketball. There are people who do, and we're not eliminating other things as a result of it. We just may have to scale down some things, but it doesn't mean we're banning the idea of drug on other locations as well, in all locations.
Thank you.
Councilman Hopkins, and before you go, do you have your hand up over there, Councilman Lanning? Okay, we have to Councilman Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of observations. I've spent a lot of time down in that area lately, just driving around talking to neighbors, and a few of the ideas that I had talked about in terms of that dog park, the dog parks will evolve over time. This is kind of our first go-around with dog parks in the city. And I think as an experimental basis, I kind of agree with Councilman Stichels that we should try the entire area. There are alternative courts. If the kids need other places to play, they can get on the Park View, which is within walking distance, and there are some outdoor courts over there. And again, the recommendation for volleyball court was also brought up as a possible solution to that, rather than another basketball court, because of the nature of a lot of the kids that attend Cranston East and Park View also are highly interested in the sport of volleyball. So again, that could be looked at, but my thought is that we should, if we're going to put a dog park in that area, we should use the entire area and then use it on an experimental basis to see if it works, or if it doesn't work, and then move on from that. Maybe down the road, we could make some changes to it. But I would suggest that we go with the entire park. Thank you.
Councilman Lanning.
My thoughts on this.
My thoughts on this is that a dog park in that area, especially a larger dog park, will serve many, many residents who have dogs. A basketball court or two basketball courts will only serve a handful of people. One basketball court would probably suffice and turn the rest of the area into a dog park. To me, it's a common sense. You're taking care of more people, the most people possible, who could use that facility, and that would be by using it into a dog park, mainly a dog park. As far as the funding for it, I'm sure that if you approach this Dream Center and explain to them what you want to do, I'm sure they would go along with it. If they're that concerned, I don't think they're near to push basketball courts. And also, if I remember correctly, Mr. Liberatore was supposed to give us the parameters, how many square feet that whole area is, and I haven't heard it as of yet, so maybe somebody in the administration knows what it is.
And again, I don't have that engineering
breakdown yet. I would like to say this with all due respect to the council. One of the concerns I had here was the fact that this is being done by ordinance. It strikes me that this is more of a resolution about what the council's will is to have done on a particular piece of property, and we certainly would do it in conjunction with the council. I'm a little concerned, and I defer to the solicitors, that we have this in an ordinance because it really is a Parks and Recreation discussion and decision to work with the council and the neighbors on, and given the caveat of private funding in the middle of this, they have a voice if they're going to fund this, and I really am not a fan of turning away private funding for any of our parks. From a reputable group like this particular group. So I'm just concerned about the way this is progressing. This is something that the administration had been working on right along. In the meantime, the ordinance comes up for Beachmont, and I think it's great that the councilman wants to support that, and it turned out we may not need the impact fees and everything got revised as a result of that. But I am concerned, and I defer to the solicitors on even the form of this being in an ordinance versus a council resolution, so I don't want to throw more questions into it, but I am concerned about that, because if you put in an ordinance for something and it's not going to work, or the Dream Group says, sorry, we don't want to do this anymore, now I'm trapped by an ordinance legally, as opposed to a resolution where we have a little more latitude to work together as two sides of the house.
Attorney Kirschenbaum.
I think without examining that legal question, I think the real practical problem here is that we don't know what this outside entity envisions for the site, and I don't think we have the information from Director Liberatore yet as to what the remaining land will be. So we're all envisioning different things without knowing what will fit on the site and what the funding grant from this organization will be. So my advice at this point in time would be to continue it 1 month to get more specifics as to what this group wants to do and what the city wants to do from Director Liberatore, and see if we can accommodate all concerns to dog park, including whatever recreational facet this group wants to do.
Thank you, Attorney Kirschenbaum. Vice President Vivekio.
Thank you, Council President. Yeah, I think one of the issues is that the reason it came in as an ordinance was because it was using in Eastern Cranston impact, it was using impact fees, so I think it may have been required to be done that way. Now that it's going to be done with private money mostly, I don't know that it needs to be an ordinance, and I like the idea of experimenting with someone else's money rather than the taxpayers' money, just to get the ball started. I thought this was to get the dog parks started, and then we were going to look at 3 or 4 other things as well. The Ciba Geigy would have been maybe the best, except that it may be the most long-term solution.
You know, that being said, I think that, as Councilman Lanning said, there is the commitment for dog parks. There are some separate sites being looked at now that may be larger in nature, so I think there's more to come on that particular venue.
Councilman Lanning.
Yeah, I got a follow-up question for the city solicitor. And we're talking about resolutions and ordinances. If you're using city money, Eastern Recreation Impact Fees, it has to be an ordinance. It can't be a resolution and just say, take the money and do what you want with it. Am I correct? Am I correct on that?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, so that answers my question as far as turning this to a resolution. You can't unless you accept absolutely no money from the Eastern Recreation Impact Fees.
And at this point, we didn't envision using the impact fees for it.
That was deleted.
That was what got deleted out of it, which then sort of made the ordinance unnecessary. And now it really is more of a resolution situation where the council's will is to request the administration to work side by side.
Well, and as far as working side by side, if we turn this whole project over to the Recreation Department, and the financier of this project, what input do we have as a council? We don't have to prove anything, they can do what they want, am I correct?
Technically, yes, it's an administrative function, but I would like to think that we've had a history with recreation particularly, and I think that our recreation director has a good rapport with our council, and we've given a lot of latitude, in fact, to him to have direct communications with the council because of the fact that He's done a good job, and I think a good job diversifying throughout the city the funds that we use. So I would like to think that there would be a mutual respect and trust between administration and the council to ensure that we are fairly distributing these things across wards, that recreational money is being used fairly, and that the design is something that certainly the neighbors are going to appeal with. We're not looking to put something that neighbors don't want. That doesn't benefit the mayor, the council, or anybody.
I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that the council is being further eroded as far as authority by saying, we'll turn this into a resolution, so let's pay for it, and you have absolutely no say in this. And that's exactly what could happen. Don't get me wrong, that's exactly what could happen, and I'm saying that as a council who represents the taxpayers and the voters of the city, we should be involved in these kind of decisions, not making decisions without our consent. And that's my problem.
Well, I think when we use capital money, for example, the council's always directly involved. We put in front of you what it is that we're doing. When we use recreational impact fees, it's in front of the council. The reality is that some of this there is an administrative function. Now, I would like to again say that I think that we have a good rapport. I think that we certainly, when we talk about things like dog parks or putting turf on fields or upgrading baseball and softball fields, all of those things that we talk about, I think are joint projects because frankly, your constituents are our constituents. It's all the same, ultimately in the end. There would be no reason for us to do something, particularly in a recreational front, that is in the disinterest of any one ward or the city council. And I'm just looking at the concern I have with an ordinance that is going to dictate specifics of the breakdown of the use of a recreational facility, because it really isn't a law. You're creating a law about how I have to use recreation space, and I may or may not be able to comply with that, and I may end up losing the whole project, with all due respect, and I don't want to lose that.
I certainly understand what you're saying. I've never, in all my years in this council, have ever criticized the director, a recreation director. He does a great job. My only concern in this is if we change this into an ordinance, instead of an ordinance, we change it to a resolution, and we vote on it with this wording in there, and you bring it to the parties that are going to fund this, and ask for their opinion. If they say no, then you come back to us and say, here's what they're going to do. They're going to build a stadium, I don't know what they're going to do.
And if they say no, I bring it back to you. We huddle as an administration, we talk to you, and then we have a choice. Do we either turn down money, or do we take what they're willing to give us and say we're going to look for dog parks elsewhere? I think we have to cross that bridge when we come to it, Councilman.
Well, I think we should have that option.
And I don't think that there would be a case where if they turned it down and said we really want the basketball courts, which I actually think they may want the courts, and they're going to do that, and they're also then going to fund a dog park for us in addition, I'm not sure I want to look that gift horse in the mouth. Now, I certainly would bring that back to the council to discuss.
I can remember when I was a Fifth Ward councilman many years ago, we had a basketball court on Flower Avenue where they were looking to put a dog park. And the neighbors were so incensed that some of them took the basketball, the net, down in the middle of the night, and it disappeared. And they told me, you called the recreation department and tell them not to put up another one. So I guess we don't always understand what the neighbors really want. And that's the only point I'm trying to make.
And Councilman, I absolutely agree with you. I think sometimes we think things might be a great idea, or we hear from 10 or 15 neighbors who want something. And I can tell you from my experience when I worked in South Kingstown, I was there when that dog park was developed with a 501c3 group that started it. It was neighborhood driven, not council driven. But it did not come without controversy. I can tell you that much. They are controversial. And animal lovers may love them, but not all neighbors do. And so I do think it's something that as we move forward, whatever we do with that amount of dog parks, size of dog parks, I do think the neighbors should be informed. Absolutely.
Before we get off this topic, Solicitor Verdecchio, do you have any opinion from the solicitor side?
Councilman, may I just say maybe a point of clarification? Initially, this was an ordinance, as everyone has said, because impact fees were being discussed as the origin of the financing. Now that that's off the table, essentially we're back to the legislative body, the council, appropriates to the administration. the administration in all its departments, all of its agencies, has the discretion now to spend that appropriation the way they see fit. Sometimes the lines get a little blurred because this is almost a sort of a hybrid situation, because now there's also private money that's being introduced. But just to refer back to your comment that the council is somehow losing control, it's basically the way the government is designed. The appropriating body, the legislative body, and the administration, which has the discretion to spend the money. So that's just the way this government is designed.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I don't want to, I'd like to get dog parks on the ground and running, but I don't know if there's any harm in continuing with it being December. The ground's frozen, the construction's not going to get done. I really wish Director Liberatore was here and we could figure out what the Dream Center wants or what they need. So, you know, I don't think there's any harm in just waiting 1 month. Because maybe doing the whole court is what everybody wants. I just don't want to push away any public money or private money that's going to help the city. So I don't think construction's going to get done with it being, you know, December. They probably wouldn't do anything until March or April anyways. So, you know, I'd like to make a motion to continue this to, yes.
You can't give another motion to go down the member.
Is there a second on the motion?
He had an amendment to put the word vote, and I seconded it. It was before us, the last time. Until we decide on that amendment, unless you want to withdraw it.
I'll withdraw the motion because I'm out of order, but I just think, you know, we could continue it because construction's not going to happen anyways.
Councilman McCauley.
Thank you, Council President. I'm in agreement with both Attorney Kirschenbaum and Councilman Paplaskas, being that construction's not in the very near future. If we could get Director Liberatore and also the Dream Center to answer the questions we have before them, I think it would help this council a great deal. So I'm in favor of postponing this in a month. Thank you.
Councilman Stichels.
Yes. I've talked to the people at the Dream Center, and what they want to do is they want to do something nice for the community. And I don't think they have this big pot of money that everybody seems to think they do. They did the basketball courts, and that was largely with labor and with paint. They bought a couple benches, they brought some loam, but this is not we're not talking about a high-priced operation. And I think when I asked Mr. Liberatore about fencing at the dog park, because I mean now it's fenced as 2 tennis courts, but there need to be some division if you had 2 parts of the dog park or if you divided it from the basketball court. He said he had some fencing in other parks that he was going to transfer in, and that if he needed money, he said that he would get it from elsewhere in his budget, but because he wanted to save the impact fees for other projects he had in mind. So I would urge people to vote for adding the word both, because for all the reasons I've already stated. I don't want to go over it again. Thank you.
I'm going to make the last comment on the amendment, only because everyone's had a chance to speak on it. I'm going to vote no on the amendment, only because I think we should continue this till next month, so we have all the information, so we don't make a decision not based in fact. So I'm going to wait until I see the plan from Director Liberatore, get some more feedback from the administration. So I'm going to vote no on the amendment, just so we can continue the discussion till next month. With that, clerk, please take the roll on the amendment.
Yes.
Councilman Hopkins?
Yes.
Councilman Stichels?
Yes.
Councilman McCauley?
No.
Councilman Acardo?
Yes.
Councilman Colbert?
No.
Councilman Paplaskas?
No.
No.
No. Councilman Voskis.
I'll make a motion to continue to next month.
I have a motion to continue next month. I have a second, under discussion. Councilman Trevecchio.
Just quickly, I have no problem with whatever gets developed there, but my recollection was Director Liberatore had some specific ideas in mind and some things with that other organization, so I'm just a little bit leery about doing it right now. It would have passed probably without the amendment initially, Councilman Stegos, but just want to make sure that we've got it exactly as Mr. Liberatore had suggested, so.
Councilman Stegos and Councilman Voskis.
Just to respond, I think you're correct about it passing without the amendment, but I felt it was important that we get this issue of how big the dog park should be.
No, I really have a problem with that, it's with the size, if it's feasible under but I think what we had approved was slightly different, and that's my only reason. If you didn't bark as loud, it would have already passed.
Hang on, we're checking the cheat sheet. Give me a second. Give me 1 second, Council. We're good. Councilman Arquero.
Thank you, President. If this does get continued, Mr. President, I hope our questions are answered before it comes before us. For example, Councilman mentioned that Mr. Liberatore was asked for dimensions, and we didn't receive those dimensions. There are other questions, so hopefully, if this does get continued, we have those answers.
Through the chair, to the administration, or through me, can we ensure that Director Liberatore comes next month if he has the information prepared?
Yeah, I will, and I still would ask that both the solicitor and attorney Kirschenbaum look at the format of this, because again, it was an ordinance because it was impact fees, and I just don't want to go down a weird habit of putting things as legislation that may be problematic. But I will get you all the numbers and the information, and frankly, whether it's a resolution or an ordinance, I would get you that material either way.
Thank you, Director. Councilman Paplaskas, then Councilman Stekos.
Thank you, Council President Farina. I will be voting to continue this. I think, I agree with Councilman Stekos and Councilman Hopkins. The bigger the dog park we can put at Beachmont, the better. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, and with it being the time of year it is, construction's not going to get done anyways. So I don't think there's any harm in continuing it 1 month. I think we're all in favor of putting a dog park there. The sooner the better, but with it being this time of year, there's no harm in continuing it. So I'll vote to continue it. Thank you.
Councilman Stekos.
Could I just ask that maybe we get a memo ahead of the meeting about this information that the council president has asked about and Councilman Lanny has asked about? So we just get then we have a little bit of an idea about what we're going to be discussing, and if we have any other details before the meeting, we can ask for that information before the meeting so we don't end up delaying again for lack of information. And is that all right?
She just nodded yes, so she's going to do everything in her power to get the info we need.
All right, with that, I will support the motion to continue.
Any other comments? I'll make one quick one. Yes, this would have passed tonight. I think we all support a dog park at Beachmont Ave without the addition of both, without knowing what the plan is. It's tough for us to vote on something in an unknown fashion. So we do need a dog park in the city. We've been working hard the last 6 months to find locations, review locations, and put them in. Hopefully we can get this done next month for the residents of Edgewood. With that, clerk, please take the roll to continue to next month.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Moving on to Public Works Committee, Councilman Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have a resolution urging the mayor to provide public notice of sewer cleanout services provided by Veolia Water, sponsored by Councilman Stekos, Paplaskas, Hopkins, and McCauley, and co-sponsored by Councilman Laney, Council President Farina. It has been approved by committee.
Do you have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Under discussion, seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
We have a discussion.
Well, I think since we're all sponsors, this would be a no-brainer to pass, but Councilman Stekos, you have the floor.
I don't want to add to your killer amendment to this. What I would like to ask is if the administration's position on doing this, whether the administration is in favor of this.
I believe that Director Mason had addressed this at Public Works, and he had indicated there was no issue, so as long as Director Mason is on board, I certainly don't see anything.
Well, actually, I asked Director Mason, I think he supports the idea, but I asked him specifically whether he could promise us that it would get done, and he said, I can't do that to the administration.
No, again, as long as he doesn't have a philosophical issue with it for any reason, or it's not going to be an issue for our department, it will be notified.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Arquette.
Thank you, President. I'd just like to be added as a co-sponsor to this legislation. Thank you.
Oh, I apologize, I thought we had 9 for 9, we had 8 at 9, so by adding Paul now we have 9 for 9.
Make it 9.
9 for 9. Any further discussion? Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Lee?
Yes.
Councilman Hopkins?
Yes.
Councilman Stieglus?
Yes.
Councilman Foley?
Yes.
Councilman Kendall?
Yes.
Councilman Holder?
Yes.
Councilman Oscar?
Yes.
Councilman Rodriguez?
Yes. Yes. On to Ordinance Committee, Council Majority Leader Buklauskas.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. First on the ordinance agenda is 11-1703, ordinance and amendment of Title 8.28 of the Code of City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Health and Safety Fire Prevention Code, Cooking Fires, sponsored by Councilman Stichels. It was amended in committee and forwarded with a positive recommendation to the full council.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Under discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Lee?
Yes.
Councilman Hopkins?
Yes.
Councilman Stieglus?
Yes.
Councilman Foley?
Yes.
Councilman Kendall?
Yes.
Councilman Holder?
Yes.
Councilman Oscar?
Yes.
Councilman Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilman Rodriguez?
Yes.
Okay, moving on, we have 11-1704, ordinance and amendment of Chapter 6.08 of the Code of City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Dogs and Other Animals, Animals Wild Hybrid, sponsored by Council Vice President Favicchio. This was forwarded to the full council with a positive recommendation.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Any discussion, Council Vice President?
Thank you, Council President. I did look up the issue that you had asked me about with regard to dogs. And believe it or not, there are much fewer, there's not really much in the way of hybrids with regard to dogs. Canines are a very small group. Wolves are typical. There are some wild African dogs and coyotes, but those are not bred, thankfully, by humans. They're out in the wild. So I don't think there's any need to change this. We went through the issues with regard to the hybrid cat, the Savannah cat, so-called, that was in Edgewood. I understand it's in Tennessee now, at some kind of a farm or something, and there still may be another one out there. But this basically will spell out exactly what kind of animals are not allowed in the city and also under DEM regs. And it carries a $500 fine and or 20 days in jail, actually, for non-compliance, if we get into that extreme. But that actually is already in our law, the existing law. That really wasn't anything new. That actually exists, just so everyone knows. But these are extremely, I think, dangerous animals because the rabies vaccine does not work. And they're extremely agile, intelligent, and can be very dangerous. So they caused a problem for one homeowner. Almost killed a cat, a regular house cat, and scared the heck out of the family. Broke into the house, actually. So, but there are quite a few of these, unfortunately, that you can buy on the web. And the closer to a wild animal, the more expensive they are, which really scary. But anyway, I obviously urge passage of this.
Thank you for doing the research for me, Council Vice President. I wouldn't want anyone to come to try to take my hybrid bulldog corgi. As a dog lover, I wanted to ensure that hybrid dogs meant with dog, and it sounds like it does, so thank you for that. Councilman Stichels.
I just want to thank Councilman Favicchio for the legwork and research that you did on this.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Councilman Laney.
Yeah, I'm I'm looking at the list over here, and it says, be not limited to venomous snakes, alligators, etc., crocodiles, chimpanzee. How about non-venomous snakes, like boa constrictors and that type of thing? Should they not be included in this, or should they? Probably, Councilman Knight, I didn't. I think I was following the part of what the DEM regs say, but if you want to remove the word venomous and just include all snakes, either all snakes or venomous and non-venomous, I think would cover everything. I have no problem with that. I want to cover every possible type of animal, because we've seen a few in the city, believe it or not.
The lawyer has jumped up, so the lawyer may have something to say.
Just informational purposes and based on my own experience, Councilman, I believe that there are certain snakes that are actually sold through pet shops that are non-venomous, small constrictors, things like that. So, and that may also be preempted by the state. I'm not sure. So I think if you broaden this to include all snakes, I think it could be a problem.
Okay, how about if we just use a species like pythons and boa constrictors?
Well, like I said, I'm pretty sure there were some constrictors. I've actually seen people standing with them outside a courthouse, believe it or not, draped around their neck. If you want to start listing cobras and puff adders and stuff like that, we'll be here till next March. There's so many.
I asked the question, I got the answer. I don't want to get sued.
Any additional comments? Lastly, I just want to thank Council Vice President Vivekio for doing a lot of legwork on this. When this incident happened, the woman actually came to the council, made a statement, and Council Vice President took it, ran with it, and really solved the problem. So thank you, Council Vice President. With that, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman?
Yes.
Hopkins? Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, moving on the resolution urging the General Assembly to pass legislation banning bump stocks and trigger cranks, sponsored by Councilman Arquette and McCauley, and co-sponsored by Councilman Paplaskas, Hopkins, Laney, Council Vice President Favicchio, and Council President Farina.
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve, second. Councilman Arquette.
Thank you, Council President Farina. This resolution is a result of the tragedy that happened in Las Vegas, and the criminal was using bumper stocks and trigger cranks. I think there's something on the books around laws for bumper stocks but not trigger cranks. So this is something that will urge the General Assembly to change. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Arquette. Councilman Laney, hand up?
Yes, I did, thank you. Yeah, there is something in the state regulations concerning you can't turn a regular gun into a machine gun. That would cover bumper stocks and et cetera. But the resolution's a good idea, and we should send it to the General Assembly to make sure that it is actually covered in every way possible.
As a point of information, it is illegal to use a bump stock in this state. However, it is not illegal to purchase. So you could buy it and just not modify your weapon. So hopefully this resolution will allow the General Assembly to change that rule to ban internet sales of that item in this state. So thank you, Councilman Arquette, for thinking of that for us. If there is no further comment, clerk, please take the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. There's only one claim listed on the Claims Committee docket, so thank you, Councilman Colford, for that heavy lifting on that one claim. You're welcome. Public hearings, this is open to anything. If you'd like to come up and say something, now is your chance. Please limit comments to 4 minutes. Name and address for the record.
Douglas Doyle, 178 Lippert Avenue. Mr. President, it's been 2 years since the council approved solar power by right in Western Cranston. So I just thought I'd review some of the issues that you discussed back then and see what's happened since then. The whole thing, as far as I know, is still in litigation, last time I checked. There's a small project on 7 Mile Road, just under 500 kilowatts. As you may remember, I advocated for special permits. This project is a perfect example of why you need special permits. This went before the planning commission twice and zoning once. No one ever discussed solar on this site. Went through those 2 houses. That's all anybody ever heard. So this project was finally approved. It never went to planning commission. It just went to site plan review. One of the arguments I heard against the site plan, against the special permit was, well, don't worry about it. It's got to go to planning. Well, they don't. We now know that. Another issue is with the vegetative buffers. I've continually raised this issue. This is a common requirement in cities and states all across the country. Unfortunately, there's a rebuttal at this site, who had a stone wall and nice trees behind it. Now she has a stone wall, she's going to have a chain link fence, a retention pond, and solar panels instead. That would have been completely resolved with a simple buffer of 20 feet of trees. That's all they had to do. And this is a simple act of courtesy and respect for the neighborhood to require developers to do this. It doesn't take a lot of money out of their pockets. It's very easy to do. It just respects the neighborhood and the neighbors. As far as the Lippert Avenue goes, we're still clearing, getting close to construction. Again, vegetative buffers. I advocated for that there because it's conservation land of 1,800 feet. And you can say, no, we don't need that. There's a 50-foot buffer already there. Well, that's not accurate. I've been out there, I've measured it. It's maybe 25 feet to 0. They would have known that if they'd gone out and done a site visit, but apparently they never did. So now if you go to conservation land, you can look across this 60 acres of devastation, and now you can see downtown West Warwick, on the West Warwick High School. That would have been completely absorbed, done away with, if they just put in a 20-foot buffer. That's all we were asking for. It wouldn't have taken much at all. It would have saved so much and had such a huge impact, because there are wetland buffers in the site. And the difference is stark and dramatic if you go out there and look. You can barely see the site through the vegetative buffers that the wetlands required. As far as traffic, remember I raised traffic issues. I found construction plans from Ontario that said, 700 vehicle trips at least for construction vehicles. And the planning director said, oh no, don't worry about it, you'll never notice it. It's going to be spread over 6 to 7 months. Well, for the last 3 months, we've had our 6 o'clock morning construction parade. Every day for 6 days a week. It's going to look like now I can sit there and have breakfast, and I can tell that truck's coming down my dirt road by the sound of the engine. I've heard them so often. Everything from pickups to big construction trucks, to dump trucks, to semis, logging trucks, wide load, flatbeds. We had one show up at 5:40 in the morning. This thing was so big I couldn't make the corner in one turn, trying to back up. You know that annoying noise you hear when trucks back up? We were done at 5:40 on a Saturday morning. This has been going on for 3 months. We had 2 months of logging trucks, 3, 4, 5, 6 trips a day. Plus there were semis to haul away the brush for 2 months. And we were told, don't worry about it, we'll never notice traffic. We were told it was going to be phased development. They were going to do 5 acres at a time. I'm sure that sounded very nice to the planning commission. It didn't last a week. They went and just destroyed 60 acres at once. Okay. When they did that, they discovered ledge. They blasted twice, 20,000 pounds, 10,000 pounds. It's now a quarry. Literally a small quarry on the site. And for an interconnection for National Grid, they have to connect from the site to Lippert Ave. They still don't know how they're going to do it. I found out this week that maybe they might have to trim some trees. When National Grid told me they're going to have a 20-foot clearance on either side of the line. They're not trees. So I would hope that sometime you can revisit these issues and take a look at what's happened out there. Go out there and walk the land. Go out there and look at it. I know I'm not optimistic because the mayor's administration takes credit for bringing Southern Sky out to my neighborhood. And the new planning director has no interest in solar ordinances. But, maybe somebody will have a Nixon goes to China moment. But it would be nice before this comes to someone else's neighborhood, you make a few changes to protect them the way we were not protected. Thank you.
Thank you, Douglas. Any Anyone in the public to speak on anything? There being none, that portion of the meeting is now closed. Election of city officers. One reappointment tonight, Josh Catone, alternate reappointment. We continued this from last month because some of the members had not seen his resume. So, Councilman Arquette.
I have an announcement, Mr. President, that Michael Schlesinger has been appointed to the Board of Contracts and Purchasing. I just want to make that clarification.
Thank you, Councilman. Michael Schlesinger has been named to the Board of Contract and Purchase as the minority appointment. Now on Josh Catone, anyone want to make a motion? Motion approved. A motion approved, do a second? Second. And a second, any discussion? Councilman Favecchio.
Thank you, Council President. Just one quick note. I noticed from his resume that he has no experience in real estate, more in the IT area, which is probably a very smart guy, but just wanted to note that he has no experience in real estate of any kind.
Thank you for that. Any other questions or discussion on this report? Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Report of city officers. I don't believe there are any executive communications. You have the report on hiring special consultants in your packets. If you have any questions, now would be the time. Looks like there are no questions. We have two requests to be continued in service for 1 year. Director Muskin, have they both made qualifications to do so?
It's actually one to continue in service for Ryan, and we appreciate that you'd like to continue in service, and one request to be placed on the pension of Deputy Chief Dover, we thank him for his many years of service. He means all qualifications.
Thank you. I'll take a motion on
Captain Ryan.
Captain Ryan for 1 year.
Motion to approve, Captain
Motion
Ryan.
and a second. Discussion, seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Yes. Yes. Now on the request to place Deputy Chief James Dover on the pension rolls.
Motion to approve, second.
Motion for a second. Under discussion, seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Yes. Enjoy your retirement, Deputy Chief Dover. From the Council President Communications, as this is the holiday season, I will just say Happy Hanukkah to everyone. It was fun to be at the menorah lighting and dance the Hora with the rabbi from Edgewood. Also, it was very nice to see the tree lighting. Unfortunately, I was stuck at work, so I couldn't make the tree lighting this year. This is the first year in 7 years I wasn't able to be here. But I hear with the rain, they pulled it inside, and everyone did a great job. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. It's been a fun first year as Council President. Council's been different, but it's a lot of fun. So I wouldn't change much of it. Some of it I probably would, but I wouldn't change much of it for anything, so it's been a great year. So thank you, gentlemen, for providing us with so much fun in this chamber. On to council member communications. Councilman Lane, you're the only one with on the docket, so you, sir, get to go first.
Okay, you have a monopoly today. A feasibility study for a police substation in Edgewood. I've been asked by a few residents in the Edgewood area if it was possible to have a police substation similar to the one we have in Knightsville at the Knightsville Manor. And I'd like the administration to run this by the police department and get their feelings on this unless you already have talked to them.
No, I certainly would have no problem with this.
All right. I think it's a good idea to have a substation on both sides of the city. That's my request on that. And the second one, procedures and the processes for resolutions. And I'd like to ask the city solicitor to answer a few questions, or the council solicitor, either one. Could you explain to the general public and the new members of this council what a resolution is?
Well, a
A resolution is a decision, a collective decision by the legislative body that indicates the will of that body. It is not binding in the sense, it's not a law as an ordinance would be. That's the primary difference between resolution and ordinance. An ordinance has the force and effect of law. Now, there are instances where a resolution could, depending on its substance, the Rhode Island Supreme Court said there could be instances where a resolution could be, or could have the same effect as an ordinance. But for all intents and purposes, an ordinance is more of a law of the city or town, whereas a resolution is, as I said before, the collective will of the legislative body.
Okay, does the city council solicitor have the same opinion on that?
For the most part, I think that was very, very impressive by Solicitor Verdecchia. A council resolution in my mind is there are two different types that we have. One, as defined by our rules, are congratulatory or condolence-based, and the other is more what I would consider to be a hope or desire of the council. It's a non-binding expression of will that this council would hope that another body take action as contained in the resolution. Mr. Verdecchia is right that the Rhode Island Supreme Court has recognized resolutions in certain aspects to be binding as ordinances, but those are rare cases, and I applaud him for knowing that. That's good.
Also, should resolutions take a certain form, or there's no really format as far as setting up a resolution, is it?
I think we have developed a form in our rules. I think it's in the typed submission requirements and things of that nature. I would say that would be covered by Rule 34A, 34B, for the most part.
Okay, with 34A and 34B, okay. And how specific should a resolution be? Should it be
Actually, it's Rule 35, I'm sorry, strike that out, I'm sorry.
35?
34 describes the procedure, but 35 talks about all petitions, acts, resolutions, reports, and other communications submitted to the city council shall be written on a template, on paper, or electronically, of uniform size and style, which shall be furnished by the city clerk.
Okay. So it must be specific then, as far as exactly what it's going to say? Or does it have to be general? Or can be both?
Well, I mean, I think it can be general. It could be specific. It could be either. You know.
Well, the reason why I'm asking these questions, because I want to be sure that when I introduce a resolution, it doesn't always get tabled. If I'm doing something wrong, I surely won't be told about it. You know, and because I've asked for a debate on certain resolutions almost monthly, and now I'm being accused in the Cranston Herald of saying that I'm saying that all the Republicans want guns in the schools, which I never ever said. All I want is an honest debate. But now that I know I have to go by Rule 35, I'll have to resubmit my resolution and hope somebody will consider it, or maybe somebody who voted for it to table my resolution will take it off the table, which I doubt. But thank you for your indulgence and thank you for your expertise. I appreciate it.
I don't have a vote, so
I know you don't.
doing this.
Sometimes I wish you did.
Nor do I have a gun, so those are probably two good things.
Councilman Arquette.
This is this response to Councilman Leahy's concern about a substation at Edgewood, Council President, and I represent the Arlington area, and I live close proximity to the Cranston Police Station, and police car be on Route 10 in a matter of less than a minute. They could be on Elmer Avenue, or they could be on Park Avenue, that's where 10 ends. I'm not saying we shouldn't have a substation. I think it's a good idea, but I think we need to get our attention to Western Cranston, because I think the response time in Western Cranston is the longest, and I think we should add possibly a substation, having do research, or doing research on Edgewood, maybe Western Cranston also. That's my concern. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Joe.
With all due respect, I think one of the things to keep in mind with police departments, it's not so much where the station is located, because our offices are typically not there. A supervisor might come out from there, but really they're all dispersed throughout the city based on numbers of calls. So, yeah, we could look into that if there's a need and what response times are. But I think we're going to look at the number one, we have to look at the feasibility. Do we have the officers to even staff a substation? Where would we take them from? What, is it the District 1 officers who would be there? But I think we probably have to look at call volume, types of calls, that kind of thing, to take that all into consideration. But I do caution that typically our police officers very rarely are in the station unless they're bringing bringing something back to the station of, arresting somebody or processing a report.
Any further council member communications? Councilman Vice President Favicchio.
Thank you, Council President. Just a couple of little items through the chair, probably to Director Muxie. I'm sorry about that. I got a call from a constituent about there was an accident at the intersection of Summit and Glenview. I don't know what can be done. Summit comes up through, travels east and cuts right through Glenview Drive. There's a very wide median, and there's a lot of trees and stuff, and I guess it's hard to see. A lot of people come up. There's a mailbox there, and there's a lot of activity right in the middle there. It's kind of a very weird little intersection. It asked me about stop signs and other things, but something that we could look at. That was one thing. I'll get you the specifics. I can email you too.
We could look at accident reports that have happened there. It could maybe be trimming back some of the greenery.
It could be the trees. The other thing was that report about the gas line issue with National Grid. Someone had called me, and I forgot the name of the street that it was on, but I guess it was a whole street where there's an issue. And they've had the smell of gas quite often, and they've had a lot of complaints, and I think the Herald had looked at it, but I was just wondering, maybe we could try to track that down. Okay, thank you.
Councilman Stichels is next, then we'll go to Councilman Paplaskas.
Thank you. I just wanted to hand out an article to members of the council that pass these around that I had hoped to hand out at the discussion of Councilman Leahy's resolution on guns in schools. It's from the New York Times recently, and I think it provides some solid statistical information about gun violence, separate from the various arguments that people make. And I hope you take the time to read it. And I think you'll see that when it comes to mass shootings, there are two countries in the world that lead the way, the United States and Yemen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Stichels, for this article. I'm sure we'll all read it. Any further council member communications? Councilman Paplaskas, you were next. I apologize.
Thank you. I just want to, first of all, thank everybody that came out and helped out with the Knightsville Gazebo Christmas tree lighting a few weeks ago. It went very well. and it was a great event for the neighborhood, so I just want to thank everybody involved with that. And I also want to wish everybody here a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy Holidays. And hope you have an enjoyable holiday season with your family. Thanks.
Thank you for what you do for your ward, Councilman Paplaskas. You do a great job. I'm sure they appreciate you. I know many of my friends and family love the tree lighting and everything you did for that day. And I know you've done it the last 3 years, and no matter where you go, what you do, what office you apply for, wherever you end up, you will always light that tree and be the mayor of Knightsville. Councilman Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, to follow up on Councilman Paplaskas, I want to wish everyone a happy holiday and a healthy one as well. Recently, Councilman Favicchio and I met with the Garden City Neighborhood Association in regards to the expansion and the traffic problems on Sacanasa Crossroad and Playak Avenue. We met with maybe a half a dozen of the Neighborhood Association, along with Kelly Coates representing the Capiano Group, and we came away very enlightened. Most of the questions that have been asked have been circulating through the Garden City area, and the concerns were answered that night. And again, just as a point of reference, we have been communicating with the Neighborhood Association to let them know about the possible expansion and the potentials for that site, including DOT traffic and exit ramps that come off of Route 37, and the possibility of new entrances in and out of that Chapel View area. And from my personal opinion, I thought that the Neighborhood Association was grateful that we met with them and communicated. It showed a lot of transparency from the organization that's building it, and everybody seems to be on the same page over in that area of the city. So, again, thank you, Councilman Favicchio, for meeting with them, and I think they're pretty satisfied at this point.
I think so.
And Director Buxian was also at that, representing the city, so thank you, Robin.
All right, with that, I think everybody's had us. Oh, Councilman Lane, you have a follow-up?
Thank you. I just want to take the opportunity to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, and stay healthy for the next year so that we can do our business. With that, good luck and everybody have a Happy New Year.
So Councilman Colford and Councilman McCauley, I would be remiss if I can give you the opportunity to wish everyone a happy holiday, and I'm sure you both want to.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Council President. Appreciate it. It's been an interesting year for me. I thank you, gentlemen, for all the excitement. It's been interesting. It's been a learning experience, and I look forward to the next year. But I want to wish you all very happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and a very happy New Year. Health to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. I echo my colleague here, Councilman Colford. I wish you all, it's been a pleasure to work with all of you. I wish you and your families a happy holiday season. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah. Thank you.
Councilman Arquette.
Thank you, Councilman.
Finish us off.
I just want to say that you had a good year, Council President, fair and balanced, running a good ship here, and that's from the minority end. And I want to thank everybody for serving. The freshmen have been baptized now for a year. I think we're all working well on behalf of the city. And, Cranston, we proved that it's running very fiscally solid and secure, so that's a credit to everyone here. To wish my constituency and the city, constituents, the city of Cranston, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy Holidays to all.
Thank you for those kind words, Councilman Arquette. With that, we have no old business. We only have 2-3 things going on as new business, so Madam Clerk.
Proposed ordinance 12-1701, an amendment of Chapter 10.32.040 of the Code of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled No Parking on Certain Streets Generally, for 28 Bolton Street, sponsored by Councilman Paplaskas, to be referred to the Ordinance Committee for hearing on January 11th, 2018. And the following claims to be referred to the Claims Committee for hearing on January 8th. Personal injury claims of Sylvia Bloomberg from alleged incident on October 18th, 2017, and Christine Demers from alleged incident on November 9th, 2017. A property damage claim of Sandra Turner from alleged incident on October 25th, 2017. And that's all I have.
With that, I'll make a motion to
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second, on discussion. Being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Council Lee?
Yes.
Council Hopkins? Council Stieglus?
Yes.
Council Foley?
Yes.
Council Colfer?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. With that, the next regular scheduled city council meeting is Monday, January 22nd.
Monday, January 22nd, 2018, unless further called for as a result of an emergency. I thank you all for coming tonight. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Second. Motion to adjourn, second. On discussion, none, for all in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.